So probably the most, one of the most favorite stories I have with the sea otters is one time we were out doing sea otter captures, and that involves quite a few people. We have divers that go underwater using what's called a rebreathers instead of scuba gear. We have a Wilson trap that was designed by someone named Paul Wilson in Cal Fish and Wildlife, and it's a special little basket that we use to catch otters in. And we were out catching otters for a specific research project so that we could tag the otters, like I was talking about earlier, and identify them later on and record different behaviors about them. Well, when we were out there, one of the days we saw this female swimming around near Lover's Point, and she had a pup, but the pup was dead. And we were concerned about that, and we were trying to figure out what to do about it. And we also, going back into the main building of the aquarium that same weekend, I think this was a Monday, on a Saturday we had rescued a little male pup up from Santa Cruz, and we were trying to get him to settle into the aquarium and get used to our treatment and care without a mom. And of course he was having nothing to do with it. He was screaming at the top of his lungs, he was vocalizing. And we were trying to comfort him, put him on a waterbed, do the things that we would do back then that we don't do now. And eventually, it wasn't really working. And so when we found the female with the dead pup that she was carrying around at Lover's Point, I connected with one of the staff persons that worked with that otter, and I said, hey, I got a really cool idea. Let's see if we can put that otter with this mom and see if she can actually raise him, because she's looking, she's just primed to raise a pup, and he's just primed to find a mom. And he was, of course, much bigger than the one that she had lost, because that one was lost pretty soon after birth. So we came and we said, okay, we'll try it. So it was late in the afternoon. We launched the boat like you see over here. We put the otter in the boat. We had him in a little dog kennel that we usually use, and he was vocalizing at the top of his lungs, just screaming and screaming. He's not happy with this situation. We motor out in the boat down to Lover's Point, and we sit there for a while because a lot of times when females will lose a pup, they will spend a bit of time vocalizing to try to reunite with the pup, and they'll wait for a response from the pup. Well, when the pup doesn't respond, the mom will continue to vocalize. So by bringing him out there, and he started to vocalize, she actually heard him and she called back, and so we were able to locate her. And we found her just swimming around. And I take that back a little bit, I'll step back a little bit, because we did catch her at one point, and the reason why we caught her was because the veterinarian at the time, Dr. Tom Williams, wanted to get a look at the pup to see if we could tell what happened and the cause of death. So we ended up catching her and letting her go, but we got the pup. So she was swimming around, vocalizing, as I mentioned, but when we got over there, it was a little bit quiet. But as soon as this otter pup started to vocalize, she responded very quickly, and we knew exactly where she was. So we're like, okay, this is great, where is she? So we saw her, and she's kind of swimming towards the boat. So we opened the kennel, and we put the little pup in the water, and we kind of wished him luck. We were all hoping that she was going to grab onto him, and she swam over. And then she kind of backed away, and he was laying there just screaming his heart out. He was going to he was not a happy camper. So he ended up, she just went away, quite a bit of distance away, and it was already 5 o'clock. So we knew that it was time that we were going to have to go back in, but we weren't about to leave him out there in the wild because we knew he wouldn't make it overnight. And he kind of drifted away from us, and we're just sitting back hoping that she would still come. So, right, let's go back, we'll pick him up, we'll bring him in. So we quietly motored our boat over there, and just before we got to him, she popped up from under the water, grabbed him, and took off with him. And then we're just sitting there like, oh my God, this is awesome. And it was like our first, adoption of an otter pup in the wild. And we didn't tag the female, but because we had spent a lot of time looking at her facial features, her nose, her grizzle, different things, we kind of knew what she looked like. And he was definitely a little bigger than she was, or her recent pup was. And so in that case, we were able to follow her for the next 3 months and actually watch her raise him. He probably eventually weaned successfully as a result of that. So that was one of my favorite heartwarming stories, to think about how we actually helped reunite this, not reunite, but unite this mom and pup together so that he could go on to have a successful rearing and hopefully be another happy otter story out there. So that's one. Another one is kind of a rescue situation, and this is really early days of the aquarium. And down Cannery Row, they still have a lot of remnants of some of the old structures here. And there was a art studio or something down the road called Stohan's, I believe. And they were right on the water, and behind them in the water was this big square remnant of some building. I don't even know what it was. And we got a call from them, and they said that they have been hearing an otter vocalizing, and they could see this female swimming all around. And they wanted us to come and look at it because they didn't know what was going on. So another woman and I named Julie Heimer went out to look, and we kind of surmised by going up in the building that in this enclosed thing there was a pup that had gotten stuck in there, and the mom was outside. And so what had happened, we had pretty big swells that day, and I'm sure the mom was feeding, and the pup may have been feeding with her, and the big swell came and kind of washed over, but as the swell receded, the pup dropped into this big opening, and the mom, was left without her pup. But she knew it was there somewhere, so she kind of kept swimming around and calling and calling. So we went out, we had our wetsuits on, we had salmon nets in our hand, and we scaled the side of this thing. I don't know how I did it, but we did. And we climbed up and we sat on the rim of it, and we looked down, and there's this little otter pup swimming around, and he's vocalizing too. So we actually grabbed the dip net and we tried to scoop him up. It was quite a ways down, and I think we were lucky enough that the tide was just right so we could still reach him. So we reached him. I got him in my net, and I was very carefully trying to move him over to the side, and then figure out I would lower him back down in the ocean, because now the water was, by the time we got this done, the water was like 10 feet below us, and I didn't want to drop him off on the water. So I'm so careful, and I'm lifting, and he got his foot just on the edge of where I was sitting, and he just propelled himself right up and out, and I'm like, oh no, he's going to hit the rocks, something's going to happen. And he propelled himself out down below, and his mom was waiting there, and right after he got out, she grabbed him and again swam away with him. We made the front page of the Monterey Herald, and it was really kind of fun because everybody was watching this little sea otter rescue, which is probably one of the more unique ones that we've ever done.